Back at W, birthday clock goes further along. I need more group therapy around here, which is why Bill Cole is here from Cole Roofing and Pfister Energy. He's one of our sponsors, of course, for our community and charity series. We've been promoting a bunch of stuff this week, including Officer Caprio and the Fallen Officers Fund over at Lock Raven High School, amongst other things happening out in the community. Billy, I don't know that I need as much therapy on the Ravens this week as I might on the Orioles at some point, or certainly just jumping over the Golden Bridge into getting AARP cards here of late and falling asleep at 5 o'clock p.m., not a.m., in Nashville, and sleeping through a Saturday night off the strip. So I am officially old, Bill Cole.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most important thing we deal with is that you're definitely old because the Ravens took us back from, we were starting to talk about the Super Bowl, then never mind, forget that.
Well, when you lose in Cleveland, there's a week of what we did here last week, whatever that was.
Right, and then now we come storming back, and everyone's ready to book their flights, and we're on our way.
You can drive to Atlanta. I've done it. You don't need to fly. You can just drive down there. That's good. That'll be good for our buses that we point in that direction and staying somewhere in Flowery Branch or something. Maybe Charlotte, for crying out loud. As far as Super Bowl aspirations, I didn't have Super Bowl aspirations the years that they won the Super Bowl, right? Other than saying, can you get to January? And, watching what the Red Sox are doing this week and the Astros and the Dodgers and the Brewers. And I've been watching a lot of baseball as well. It's one thing I did do a lot of over the last 2 weekends in Cleveland and then in Nashville was keeping an eye on the baseball games everywhere I've been. Look, we're not going to be involved in that in our town, but I guess the point of this is that's the excitement, but there's also, a very, very steep ledge that you fall off of in January if you're not good enough. So I can't judge a January team in October, but I can say they're really healthy right now. They're much deeper than we've known them to be. I don't know where the superstar guys are, right? Like, I don't know that Joe Flacco's finally going to the Pro Bowl, even though I don't even know where that is or who plays who or who's on Dion's team or, whatever they're going to do this year. It's like a joke, right? I can't even use that as a barometer anymore. The only thing that matters for Joe Flacco is playing at least one game in January that matters, and then what you do in that game against whoever that guy is going to be, Mahomes, Brady, who we watched on Sunday night. And watching those teams play, this has been a really good football season for you, for me, for fans, for the people that went down to Nashville, the people that are traveling, or the people who have their tickets in their little digital briefcase on their phone for this week or any coming week. This is a really good football game this week, Bill.
Yeah, I think the spoiled part of us is that we measure things on Super Bowls around here, which is pretty that's a pretty good story.
That's
right?
how Yins do it down in Pittsburgh too.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to give us hope. We always have hope at the beginning. You get through September and it's like, okay, do we have real hope or just not really hope? And then I still think the thing that the NFL does right is it's only 16 games. So kind of everybody has hope other than the 0-3s or 1-4s and, 2-5s.
John Gruden has no hope.
Yeah, that's interesting out there.
It is,
I don't pay much attention, but I think they were hoping for a little more pop with him.
Have you ever in your life hired someone and just made a mistake and said, I paid him too much, hurt too much, probably should have brought them, on the team? You've hired a lot more people than I have in my life, but I can promise you that I have made horrific hires and known it 90 days in and really haven't contractually or whatever been able to do anything about it. Boy, the Gruden thing, the Vegas thing, I was out there 3 times this summer watching the stadium kind of come to life, and Gruden is the picture on the billboard. Remember Billick in Baltimore when they were selling the tickets back in the day?
Sure.
Buck, the Orioles don't have that anymore. They don't have Buck on the side of the warehouse anymore. So
sure.
I don't know who's going to be on the side of the warehouse or how they're going to sell tickets. But, boy, when you make a mistake like that on a management level, right? Like we talk about John Harbaugh, good, bad, ugly. Hey, man, 11 years in, Bisciotti's really good at hiring people, as I pointed out the day he fired Billick before he hired Harbaugh, which was this is what he does better than anyone, is hires good people and lets them do their job. That has been the story of his life. It's why he's a billionaire, but he's also really hired good people. And, that's the key to life, right? At Cole Roofing or WNST or anywhere.
Yeah, I've certainly made those mistakes, and we do have a habit of like believing in people maybe longer than we should, and blaming ourselves for their inability to do what we thought they could do.
That's why Oriole fans still exist, by the way.
Right. I think Gruden was the safest edgy hire that they could make, right?
Because it was going to sell tickets. It was a marketing plan.
Sure.
As much as it's bringing John Madden back to life to some degree for Mark Davis. And it also had some cachet to sell things in Vegas. I mean, Jack Del Rio was doing a fine job. He really was.
Well, I don't understand why it's not working, right? Like, I mean, Gruden never seemed to stop paying attention to football at the level that my impression is these coaches do, right? So it's 24/7, they're film, they're always grinding on it. And even when Gruden was in the booth or doing camps or whatever he was doing, he still seemed to be 24/7. So I don't think it's a lack of effort. I don't think it's a lack of creativity or risk-taking or any of that. I just don't think he's sort of gotten the team. And
I think a decade later, coming back and managing kids 10 years younger than anybody you and I have ever managed, quite frankly, 21-year-old kids coming in, I think part of the issue there could be a communication barrier for a man who's now a bajillionaire who's 50, who used to be a ham and egger. You know what I'm saying? Sure. All that stuff. And I don't know that that's playing with a kid that was born in, let's do the math, 1990, 6, 7, 8, right? I mean, that's where these kids were born. Gruden's used to coaching people born in the 60s and 70s primarily.
I think that the only excuse that they'll give is that it takes time for him to get his players. You know how they all like to have their players. And I think that'll buy him more time. I think they're committed to him. I don't think he's going anywhere, but it's sort of strange that it hasn't, panned out at all, that it's been a, disaster. So I don't get that.
Can I ask you something? Because this is, we get together on a management side. We can talk about how good the football team is. We will. We can talk about the Orioles, and we shall. Machado, sitting with Ken Rosenthal with a haircut that, look, I'm not a get-old. I turned 50, and I'm an old white Hispanic Venezuelan kind of guy, and I've had funky haircuts, and I've shared them this week, by the way. But to sit there and say, I don't hustle, I run when I want, it's not my cup of tea, running hard. But I want $300 million. And then they go back to the set, and there are 3 Hall of Famers there saying, that makes me like him more, that he doesn't hustle, and that he's not the kind of guy that dives into first base, and, and he admits it. He's honest. He's honest about the fact that he doesn't give 100%. Dude, what planet am I living on? I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm sitting here. We got a mango lying mafia creep running the country, and then I turn the channel to sports, and we got a guy trying to get $300 million who just admits that he's not trying some of the time. Why do people watch this? Why are we addicted to this? It's amazing. This is not a standard that any of our parents set for us for integrity, honesty, effort, all of the things that your grandfather put you on roofs 99 years ago at Cole Roofing. And my dad got out of bed at 4:20 every morning and went down to the point into the rod mill for 35 years and died of asbestos. And we never got a nickel off of it, by the way. It's amazing to me. It really is.
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, a lot of those young guys, whether they want to buy into what the current culture, or culture is the wrong word, the way that management or the money, the advertisers, the way they all want them to behave, act, look, talk, at some point, guys get in line and they shake loose some of that immaturity, and they realize that this is part of their, income earning job. And whether they really want to have that haircut or they really want to say those things, they do it because that's what pays the bills. And he clearly doesn't, hasn't matured enough. And don't get me wrong, I can make the case that maybe you shouldn't, right? You don't have to necessarily conform. Like, conforming isn't always the best answer. But when it's advertising dollars or sponsors or, to your point, a big contract, I mean, there probably are a few teams who said, yeah, we were thinking about chasing him, but we're probably going to pass now. Like, they only needed one more factor to really say, we were reaching anyway to pay that. I don't think we're going to reach on a guy who says that. So, I mean, it's bad advice, right?
Well, I mean, the day that he puts on the Yankee hat or the Phillies hat or the Dodgers hat or the Cubs hat and he has his press conference, he's going to then stand and say, Manny Machado, 10 years, $278 million, and he's going to stand there and take questions from whatever frothing, foaming mouth media member, wouldn't be in Baltimore because I wouldn't be there, to say, hey, Manny, what did you mean when you sat on the worldwide television with the number one reporter in the sport and put bling around his neck and told him to lighten up, Sandy baby, that running's, not for everybody and not really for me and not my cup of tea. I don't know what to say, man. I mean, I really don't know what to say as a fan, as a citizen, as an employer, as some semblance of a role model. I don't, and for what he was supposed to represent for the organization. If Peter Angelos could sit up and put his teeth in and talk right now, he would point and say, that's exactly why. That's what I've learned about these ball players. You wonder why I got $1 billion and I didn't give any of it to any of them. That's why right there. Because I got up every morning and I built myself. And, I could hear that old man chant, right? And he ain't wrong. He ain't wrong.
Right,
you know what I mean? Like, it's disgusting how much money Rafael Palmeiro pulled out of our community. You know what I mean? Like, it really is. It's disgusting to me when we're having parades for Ray Lewis and he beats on his chest and says, my town, my town, my town, my town. Dude spends 3 days a year here. No, it's my town. I live here. You know what I mean? So all of, where the rhetoric stops and the reality begins, and then Big Papi and Frank Thomas are like, hey, how about that Manny Machado? He's honest about not trying. The rest of us were just faking it, right, fellas? I don't know what to say about that. I really don't. I mean, it's a sort of a greasy little side of sports along with cheating and PEDs and whatever avocado Tom Brady's eating to be 41 and play. But to admit you're not trying really does speak to the integrity of why am I gambling on it? Why am I watching it? Why am I paying for it? The one thing I know when I show up at a Springsteen show is he's trying.
Right. Well, and I think you will find Steve Pierce's of the world, right?
Isn't that awesome, right? I
think they're trying, I think, you brought up PEDs, and that's an interesting part to it. Right, so you've heard the story, how they talk about the player who's, kind of right on the edge, but he looks around the locker room and everybody's doing it, and now he's worried he won't be able to make a living if he doesn't take the drugs. So now he's in, he goes and does the drugs. I mean, that could have ramifications that lead a player to say, look, this whole thing is a joke, right? I mean, I grew up loving to play the game, but there's so much more crap to it now. This isn't about the game. This is about money and blah, blah, blah. And maybe he's not, maybe he's not the most eloquent speaker and didn't really want to challenge ownership. But if you read between the lines, maybe that's what it is. And there's an element of this, hey, you're keeping all the money. I'm not really going to try. The minute I blow an ACL, nobody's coming to my house giving me more money.
Well, it was the Earl Thomas story 2 weeks ago, right, with the middle finger off the stretcher in Seattle?
Right.
Literally, right? I mean,
yeah. So maybe we don't know if that's what's driving that opinion from him. But if I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, that could be an air that exists. Yeah,
he could look me in the eye at the All-Star game and say, "Go ask Mr. Angelos if he's trying to win. Go ask him." Or whether he's just trying to make money. But, and these kids see this, right? I mean, especially a kid like Machado who only knew one thing in his life, right? The Oriole way, which was, is Brady running the place? Is Buck running the place? Who's running the place here now? And do I have to run hard? They don't say I have to run hard. And, the stupid stuff he did throwing bats at people, they had his back for all of that. And the Donaldson Wars and bean balls and, all that went on with him where he was sort of a mental midget the whole time he was here for me. And, I always thought he had sort of a 10-cent head. But to come out and say that it really does make me happy he's not an Oriole to some degree, even though I don't care what the Angelos boys do with Brady Anderson's money at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, look, the Orioles could certainly have tainted his perspective on all of it. I don't know how it couldn't have, right? I don't know how walking on a captainless ship doesn't affect you.
Yeah, they give me a press pass next year down in Washington or Philadelphia, and I go find him in the locker room. I found out that he knew who I was. When I got up on him, I saw my hat, and he knew who I was, and he started talking to me like he liked me. And I don't really know him at all. I could see me in the corner where he would just unload on, once he gets his $280 million, he would just unload on Peter Schmuck about how effed up the place is. And then, like, as usual, the people at the paper would be afraid to write it.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's the stuff that we don't find out around here that we're starting to find out, right? Dan Duquette is singing about how screwed up the place was. As I pointed out in my Dear Buck Showalter letter, he will start singing about how screwed up the place is. And Brady Anderson's still running the place. I mean, that's the story now. The story is Brady Anderson's running the Orioles and isn't taking any credit or blame or accountability for it. That's the truth.
The other thing that maybe is running through multiple professional sports is this idea of not trying hard until it really matters. And you see that in baseball, right? So the guys don't run stuff out. They don't run stuff out. They don't bunt. They don't move runners over.
How about the NBA on a Tuesday night in February, right?
That's exactly that's exactly where I'm going is, go watch an NBA game and you see the same thing. It is possible that, the NFL is the only place where we can consistently rely on them to try hard, because if they don't try hard, they're liable to get seriously injured, right? So you can't take a play off, and they do, right? They talk about D linemen, and how many plays they actually try hard and things like that. And there's an interesting thing. I don't know how much people are paying attention. I don't know if anybody's written any articles. You would know better about how many plays Suggs is playing versus taking off. I guess they're trying to save him.
Oh, that's the whole. Yeah, I mean, that's an age issue for him for sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
But but whether you want to write an article commending them for doing it, being able to spend the money, if you think about it, that makes every play he's on the field really, really expensive, but he has impact on those plays. So there's some interesting coaching dynamics to that, how to extend a guy's career. But it's pervasive through sports, professional sports, that they're getting paid. They're trying to extend their career, extend their earning potential. Up until the point where you get to the playoffs and, now we got to go.
I remember when Jonathan Scope was going to get $150 million and I was the one leading that parade. He can't get on the field now in October for a team. He's made $13 million. He's going to go out into the market as a 202 hitter, literally, right? And someone will take a flyer on him for whatever, $5 million, $8 million, $10 million. But the thought that he's getting the 4-year, $80 million deal, I mean, that's how fleeting it is, right? I mean, it's incredible how fleeting it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and they all talk, and you have player unions and, referee unions, and they all sit around and complain about how much money the ownerships are making. They come out of high-level D1 college saying, wow, you really took all our money and, used us for 4 years. So, I don't know. The challenge is that most of the really good players didn't spend a lot of time in class, so they didn't learn how to effectively communicate about the situation, and you get these one-off goofy comments. it would be really interesting if they, were able to formalize, good thoughts and statements that actually spoke to their issues. But nobody's going to listen to them when guys are getting $100+ million contracts, and the fans are paying $100 just to go to a game. So
well, you got a president that says he can shoot people in the middle of the street and still be voted president. There's no reason to think that Manny Machado can't go on national television in the middle of the NLCS and say, I don't run hard all the time. And 8 weeks from now, he's still going to get $300 million. And someone's still going to welcome him in because he hits home runs that win baseball games. And that's the way it's always been for him, right? And that's not going to change. He's going to get his money. And that's
people. Right, and people are still going to buy $12 beers.
And by the way, Bill Cole is here. Cole Roofing, Pfister Energy. You know all about them. Bill, tell everybody what you do, and then I want to bring up Le'Veon Bell. So that's my next negotiating point with you.
Okay. Hate him, but anyway.
No. I mean, I think the advice he's getting is where I was going. But tell everybody about Cole Roofing.
Yeah. So we're a almost 100-year-old commercial roofing contractor, handling everything from a leak service call up to new construction, school re-roofs, shopping centers, big commercial buildings, everything in between. I guess, the easiest way for us to show our value to people is on that service side. So they have a drip. They don't know much about their roof. It's out of sight, out of mind. Feel free to call us. We can help you understand it. We can take that worry off your head. And then, as time goes on, we can help you understand when things need to be replaced. At the time of replacement, we are big proponents of helping people understand what it looks like to also put solar up on top of their roof and use that open space for something. The economics are good. Tax credits, incentives, and other things are still there. So it's like putting a nice little power plant up on top of your building to help reduce the amount of money you send out to BG&E and put it in your pocket.
Using the sun when it does come out. He is Bill Cole and Cole Roofing and Pfister Energy. The last thing, because we're talking about money and, social dissidence and all the stuff that's going on here. The Le'Veon Bell thing's fascinating, right? Because the advice he is getting is there's only so many treads on your tire. You make sure, you get the girly money. Make sure you're getting $40 million guaranteed, not $14 million guaranteed. It's all about the guaranteed money. And now we're halfway through a season where he's not out there. I don't know what point he becomes Ray Rice or becomes someone that they just say, we don't think you're as good as you might have once been because you're older. He is literally betting on the fact that he's going to make up $856,000 a week. At some point, someone's going to overpay him to make up for the money he didn't make. I'm blown away by this concept, but I am willing to let it play out as a social experiment and as an NFL experiment. I know the league is as well.
Yeah, I think that it's okay to hold your ground up to a certain point, but I would tend to agree with you. I think the math is not working in his favor at this point. Look, I find it tough. Forget the ridiculousness of the salaries and all the inequity that exists in pro sports, but just look at his circumstances inside his universe. Running backs is really a tough spot, right? They do die early. Everybody now pretty much goes to 2 to 3 backs that they're using. It's hard to justify a guy in the first round knowing that even if he's the best one in the league, maybe you're going to get 6 Pro Bowl seasons out of him. And then it's questionable whether he, so maybe he'll take 2 years where he's banged up, sits on the side, and then you can come back and you could be AP and have a little resurgence, but you're never that same again. So that's a tough spot. I don't know whether kids are realizing it and that, in college you're going to see the really great athletes move out of the running back spot and move to other spots. But you grow up, that's like the guy from the time you're Pee Wee football up until, through high school because, nobody well, I guess today high school's a little bit different. I'm always shocked at how much these high school teams are throwing the ball, but
that's what they see on television, right?
Yeah, well, they got it. That seems like what everybody does. Seems like that's how you play the game, and they.
Well, that's the way we played it on the playground, right? We went out and played tackle ball. We we threw the ball a lot. That was the fun part of it, right?
Sure.
Nobody wanted to be Bob Greasy.
Right. But the running back was, the guy, and he got all the touchdowns. And, I don't know. I think it's tough. Like I said, I agree. I think at this point he's playing with some upside down math. I couldn't have picked a, better team for this to happen to. Like that, I don't think we do Ozzy and, the guys, they seem to avoid these sort of situations. Maybe it's because we just don't end up with players that good, but whatever, that's okay. Give me B players and a whole bunch of them, and we win Super Bowls. So I don't know. I think I wouldn't be shocked if he never becomes relevant again. I also wouldn't be shocked if he is relevant. If he comes in or changes teams or whatever, but you probably haven't heard the last of him, but it wouldn't shock me. They seem to do weird stuff to these guys sometimes.
Last thing for you, Billy, Ravens. Obviously we're feeling good right now, and it's week to week. I mean, this is a big game this week. We've been talking about it all week, and but I love the trend. I love that they're relevant. I love that Pittsburgh and Cincinnati are around the corner, and they have to come here. It feels to me like the toughest part of the schedule, 3-3, was behind them. They survived it. I mean, the Cleveland thing will come back at some point and matter again in December, and losing a game that was sitting there to be won, quite frankly, that really kind of pissed Flacco off, I think, a little. I like everything I'm seeing, and I like that this team plays defense because I think that's going to pack well. And as long as it stays healthy, it's going to pack well, the depth of this.
I agree. I think that I'm curious to see. I agree with you on the depth piece. We feel really deep. I don't know that, the weird 1 or 2 injury thing, and then all of a sudden you thought we were really deep, and now it doesn't look like we're deep anymore.
Well, if Jimmy Smith and Tavon Young go down this week, and they're gone 2 weeks and 4 weeks, we've got trouble when Antonio Brown comes to town, right? I mean, that's where it is. And you're always this, look, it's right. The NFL, it's not for long, but as constructed right now, all paranoia about anything in the future, save the paranoia for Harbaugh. He's got plenty of it for everybody.
Look, I can't be happier having done this a bunch of years with these retread wide receivers. You can't be happier than the effort you're seeing out of Crabtree and the success that Brown's having, and then, sneaky Willie Snead's just rumbling down the middle, catching passes, running guys over.
Fearless. That dude's fearless.
Yeah, you can't be happier about, what you've gotten out of them. And then there's this, whole stable full of tight ends that I feel like, in a week or two here, we're really going to start to figure out who should be on the field the most. I think by default, the rookie came back and they dumped him in there, but other guys were doing well. So I think they got to get through that. But and Collins seems to disappear for a little bit, but I think you'll see him come back too. Buck Allen is Buck Allen. He's, the most reliable guy on the team. So I'm with you, man. We always feel good when we're playing good defense. We feel like we always have a shot, but Joe flinging it all over the place. And then I think the OC, we are calling good games. When was the last time anybody complained about being predictable or any of that stuff that we've been in the past? So I think we're excited, and I think it's justified to be excited.
Want to see Hayden Hurst step up here, catch a few the way he was back in the, getting into the vibe of things and getting into the flow a little bit. I know Joe really liked throwing the football to him in August and pointed it out to me. I think that will be something that will emerge between now and Thanksgiving. I don't know when or where, but I think you'll start to see, dare I say Pitta or Heap or any of that stuff, but that capability is there in him, and I think everyone in the organization saw that before the injury. Now, getting up to speed in season and coming back from all of this, I think you'll start to see him emerge. I mean, not Gronkowski crazy, but I think he's going to, be something over the next month that will be in addition to this that we don't even really know about yet.
If Joe continues to have success throwing the ball on the outsides to the receivers, then you're automatically going to end up with favorable matchups with linebackers on him that can't run with him. And I mean, it all feeds itself, right? Like when everything's working, it's real easy to march the ball down the field. And that's the thing. How long has it been? Maybe ever. I'm not sure. But like 12 plays, 7 minutes, march down the field, stick it in the end zone. Yeah, okay, punt to us, we're going to do it again. Boom, 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 down the field.
It's 21-0, right, exactly.
Yeah, like and that just
or worst case, 13-0 because you have to kick a couple field goals. I mean, that's going to be had that been the recipe against Cleveland, we're 5-1. But every year we go back and lose a game by a field goal and say we should have won that, but it's usually not Cleveland. But that being said, the road and the survival of the road and bad weather and all of those things that the team has dealt with, and now cold weather as, 4 o'clock game, the sun's going to be set and all that stuff's going on here as the Saints come in. This is a pretty good football team coming in and coming on a lot of rest as well. I'll be talking to New Orleans Saints people all week long. Bill Cole is here from Cole Roofing and Pfister Energy doing the Melfi segment here and talking me out of the tree. But there's no tree to talk me out of at this point. The Orioles can't lose any more games this week. I'm watching baseball. Hockey's happening now, and we're
the therapy. The therapy piece is it's never as good as it is when you think it's good, right? But it's never as bad as when we think it's bad.
Last week it was therapy. When you lose to Cleveland, I need therapy, right? Billy, take care of yourself. We'll send everybody out to Cole Roofing to find you.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
You got it, Bill Cole, Cole Roofing and Pfister Energy. You can find that and any other piece out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. The morning newspaper ships digitally to your email inbox. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's always $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life, as well as our friends at the Maryland Jockey Club, where this week they're doing the Maryland Million. I'm going to be checking in with Stan Salter from Maryland Horse Radio as well, and hoping to get down there on Saturday and getting a look at the beautiful sports bar that they put together down there. Also, baseball happening hopefully over the weekend as well. Some of these series extend out. And football on Sunday and horse racing on Saturday for the Maryland Million. Get on down to Laurel and see all the great additions there. Also, the entries on the front at WNST.net as well as in our morning newspaper. Last but never least, any breaking news happens first on our text service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis will be here on Thursday, driving you home from 3 until 5. It is the SSV on WNST. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Taos in Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.